Mayflower Compact, and how political thinkers such as Thomas Hobbes and John Locke had on the government and the foundation of government of the United States. In the next slide. So, some background information. The Mayflower Compact was signed by the colonists traveling to eventually become Plymouth, Massachusetts in 1620. These colonists had a more particular name that we call them nowadays, and these were the Pilgrims. The same Pilgrims that next week, Thanksgiving, that we'll be having a big feast about. These are the same Pilgrims that signed the Mayflower Compact. A quick question for you all. Does anyone know why the Pilgrims left England? What was the reason?
Because they didn't believe in the same thing as the Church of England.
Yeah, there's a separation in the Church of England that time, called the Separatist movement. So they began to separate, and they moved to North America because they wanted to be able to practice their own religion and have the freedom of religion. And the Mayflower Compact represents this, as we'll talk about soon. It allows them, one of the major focuses is the fact that they could have their own religion. Eventually, when the Massachusetts Bay Colony is established, the Mayflower Compact is adopted by most of the colony as one of the governing documents. And so now we'll talk about some of the significance of the document. So, it serves as one of the first legal documents we have of governing bodies of a group of individuals that beforehand had no governing document. They were just kind of a group of colonists traveling on a ship that sat down and wrote down their own system of laws and rules that they were going to follow. This is an example of a theory developed by John Locke, you guys learned about earlier, that came in, and he wrote down the social contract idea that the best form of government is that a government of individuals who come together with the idea of protecting what he calls unalienable rights or natural rights of the people. So the government is not really meant to be this enforcement, but rather to be a protection of the fact that everyone has inalienable rights of life, liberty, and property. It's one of the foundational governing documents of colonial America, specifically of Massachusetts. But also it served as a guide for the founding fathers when they were creating our government we have today, the United States. I mean, when you read the Constitution or documents, the first one from the first lines is life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That comes very much from the ideas of John Locke and the Mayflower Compact of the rights of life, liberty, and property, and also of the idea that it is the work of the American people as a whole that we are trying to benefit, and not of just one individual, such as a king. So right here, this is an artist's depiction of the Mayflower Compact. So you look here, it's just kind of, I mean, there is no king, there is no person that you would normally assume would be in charge, no president, no ruler. It's just individuals coming together, and they came down, sat down, and came up with their own rules. Very similar to what happens in the United States. A bunch of individuals, some of them influential, some of them just businessmen, military leaders. They came and sat down and came up with the Constitution that eventually we use. The next slide. So, the social contract is mainly between two people. There's Thomas Hobbes, who was an English philosopher who lived in the 16th and 17th centuries. And he was one of the first to really propose this idea of a social contract. Though his was a little different, because his was centered around the idea that all people are inherently not good. That if there was no ruler, if there was no government, all we would do is steal from one another and try to take things that were not ours. So he says that instead that we need a